We just watched the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies.
Where is it in your list?
Huh?
Where is it in your list?
I think it was 10.
10. Okay.
I think it might be higher after this watch.
Huh.
Yeah. Mark has not seen it.
No,
This
this
is my
my first time.
third time seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't seen this yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is my fourth Wes Anderson film as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was my first Wes Anderson, but I've seen 5 Wes Anderson films at this point, and this is by far my favorite. I'll talk about my relationship with Wes Anderson films in a bit. But Mark, what did you think?
4.5.
Okay.
Which is funny because I was expecting like you said to really like this film, and I really do. But and it's odd because like it's some of the most beautiful cinematography I've seen in film, right?
Uh-huh.
And as far as Wes Anderson goes, I agree this is probably his best work visually.
Okay.
But I actually found it rather shallow.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I'll feel differently once I sit on it for a bit, but it was hard for me to see it further than just a really entertaining story.
Okay.
Which is odd because like in his other works, like they're very entertaining stories in the same way, but they seem to be more exploring themes of humanity, where this is more just about being a thriller almost. And all I could really parse together with this is like maybe there's some stuff about class going on, but that's about it.
You ready for my spiel?
Yeah.
I think this is his most humane movie
Really?
out of all of them. It touches me to no end. The ending crushes me like nothing.
I see
Like
this
few
as
things.
Brechtian. 100% Brechtian. This doesn't move me at all.
Okay.
Which is, it's interesting we have different thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the first time I watched it, apart from not being familiar with Wes Anderson's, I don't want to get too much into spot. I realized like
Yeah.
I just almost, I just gave an expectation to those who haven't seen it by mentioning the ending crushed me. But forget that. Try to forget that. Yeah, I think maybe the first time I watched it, I might have had a similar opinion as you. Apart from not being used to Wes Anderson's style and not really being on board with his humor at all.
That's the thing. I love his humor and I love his style. I just didn't see any depth though.
Okay.
Yeah. It like all of the intention seemed to be in the visual style.
Okay.
Yeah, which I hate because like I usually love detached works that make you think, and that's what this is.
Okay.
Yeah, but
we
like
have to go into spoilers before
yeah,
we can
but
go
like
into
yeah,
depth
like
about
but
this.
like it just I don't know. I guess it just doesn't make me think in the ways that I enjoy thinking. I mean, that sounds kind of like a dick thing to say.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like his cinema for we have Wes Anderson nuts that exist in this world where everything he makes they like. I have a friend who's like that, and I really respect that because it's really cool for such an auteur to be so well respected and adored in the cinematic world in general. But I feel like it's more interesting, not more interesting. Well, I guess it is. It like for me and also you who don't love all of his films equally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is very interesting to see what we like versus what we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a very interesting talk. Like, I know there's a Letterboxd user named Adam Cook who a couple of years ago was very, very active and one of the best reviewers, period, on the site. Now he's kind of retired from Letterboxd and decided to just pursue more real world film world stuff. But he thought Moonrise Kingdom was an awful caricature of Wes Anderson. He thought Moonrise Kingdom was just the shallow thing that you said this movie was. But then when Grand Budapest Hotel came out, he said it's a perfect film, I think. And he gave Moonrise Kingdom 2 stars or something. Yeah, so it is interesting to see, for the non-Wes Anderson nuts out there, what clicks. and it might just be a film by film basis, and clearly I didn't think that you would think it's totally shallow experience. So maybe for one person, what they like about a certain Wes Anderson film is exactly what another person would dislike. Like for example, a lot of people might find the Royal Tenenbaums to be a very very awesome look at like a dysfunctional family with a lot of depth and a lot of warmth and a lot of empathy. But for me, the Royal Tenenbaums is a very cold and shallow. For me, Royal Tenenbaums is very shallow.
Yeah, I felt somewhat similarly as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And I know, there are people who think it's one of the greatest dysfunctional explorations of a dysfunctional family, like on par with Little Miss Sunshine even. I've heard the comparison, but I don't see it the same way, and that's very interesting. And Mark says that this film is of a similar vein.
For me, a lot of it might have to do with the order that I saw these films and when I saw them. So the first time I saw a Wes Anderson film was
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes. Yeah, that is my first one, yeah. Back then, I wasn't as keen, I really, really enjoyed film. And let's see, that was like 2.5 years ago, I think. But I wasn't into it as I am now. But even then, I loved the film. It was great. But then I saw Moonrise Kingdom. That was my first film where...
That was last year.
It was last
summer.
year where I sat down and I knew, okay, this is Wes Anderson. I saw Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then that's when I sort of became most aware of connecting it with the director and his style and his auteur, just the way he likes to do things. And when I saw Moonrise Kingdom, I was floored. I think mostly just because I never really had seen anything like that style before. I'd seen it in Fantastic Mr. Fox, but seeing it in live action was incredible. I mean, it's one thing with animation, because animation already lends itself to that sort of visual flair with the stop motion, but doing it in live action is an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was just so impressed by that, and that probably influenced how I saw the film as well, I would think. Still, though, since that last year, I now have seen other films or other things that I can think of a very particular student film that it's basically a Wes Anderson wannabe, right? I've seen his style affect others now, and have thought a lot about this is what he is and this is what he does, and other people have been influenced by that. I'm become more aware of that influence. So now seeing this Grand Budapest Hotel is a totally different experience because of all of that. And I'm not just swept away by the visual style anymore. I love it to death. But I guess I'm now looking with a more keen eye trying to look past the visual style and see beyond that. And I'm unsure if there's much there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, which is difficult because this is very Brechtian, where it's all very detached, right?
No. No.
In my opinion, yes. At least in its presentation. The reason I say Brechtian is because you're set up. So Brechtian, just in case I don't know if you know.
Not too clear.
Okay, so Brecht is a German playwright, theater person from the 1930s in Germany, and he's known for a very particular style of theater that is very detached and very similar to this, in my opinion, where the purpose is to alienate the audience and to distance them from the story.
Okay.
So as to discourage them to have an emotional connection with the characters in the story.
Okay.
So that they can instead more think about what's happening in the play with a more keen eye. And for Brecht, the reason for this was to explore social justice issues. With this, I'm not sure what the purpose is.
Okay.
It seems, Wes Anderson is using the similar techniques in my own view to more achieve a very certain specific aesthetic, which is beautiful as hell. But Yeah, I'm having trouble figuring out.
I mean, if hell is this beautiful,
Yeah.
I'd like to go there. I was just making play on word. Okay. I actually have the exact opposite reaction from you. I think that while you say that, with Brecht, it's very much about, detaching the audience to focus on what's going on beneath it. Mm-hmm. I think the total opposite. I think the story in this film has no meaning at all. I think that anything plot-wise,
I actually agree with that.
It's almost a good comparison and a recommendation I'd actually make is The Big Lebowski, where so much shit happens. The plot is so complex in a way, but none of it really matters. Because in The Big Lebowski, it's about all the colorful characters and all the weird shenanigans they get into.
So if the story doesn't matter, then what does?
In my opinion, again, you have to listen to me for a bit.
Okay,
it is I think this is one of the most moving films I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yes. Wow. I think that with every other Wes Anderson film I've seen, and that would be Isle of Dogs, which is my least favorite, and then Royal Tenenbaums, in order of least favorite to favorite, Isle of Dogs, and I'll explain that, I guess, briefly in a bit, Royal Tenenbaums, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then Moonrise Kingdom. All those 4 films have something in common, and it is that they try to, in my opinion, and you're not going to agree with this at all, in my opinion, they try to make the characters human and connect, and for us to sympathize with them, but they fail because of how hollow and how shallow it is. With Moonrise Kingdom...
What do you mean when you say they fail?
I will go into detail right now.
Okay.
So, I will not spoil too much, but in Fantastic Mr. Fox, one of the key things is, for example, the nephew who arrives and is better at all sorts of sports than Mr. Fox's actual son. And just the way... he's just so much better, and then there's that jealousy that comes out. I find that very, very dry, and I find that because he wants us to focus on that, it is very dry. And similarly, I can't really put it into words, it's a feeling I get from my gut, where I just see this type of character, and I've rewatched Fantastic Mr. Fox 3 or 4 times, and I've seen Moonrise Kingdom 4 or 5 times. Mm-hmm. And with Moonrise Kingdom, there's a similar thing with Bill Murray and Frances McDormand, who play husband and wife lawyers, and it's their daughter Susie who disappears. Their relationship is very dysfunctional, and the way they say that, there's a scene where they're laying in separate beds, but it's not revealed that, and all they do is they talk about the court cases they deal with, and then it's revealed that they're not in a good relationship, while Frances McDormand and Bruce Willis's cop character have this relationship that's going on, and it's she's kind of sneaking out to see him, but the way it's, if you've seen it you might understand, but the way it's portrayed, the way it's handled, it's very dry. You just see Susie looking past her telescope with Frances McDormand and Bruce Willis. They're just standing there. You don't hear what they're saying, but you know that the relationship is there. And it's Wes Anderson bringing attention to the fact that there's this relationship happening versus this relationship between the husband and wife. And I think that whenever he tries to write sympathetic or humane characters, whenever he tries to do dialogue that wants to bring out the seriousness, like more serious conversation, and when he tones down the humor, I find it to be really dry, and I find it to be really cold and hollow. While in this film, I feel like every line of dialogue spoken by every character adds to, especially knowing the ending and rewatching it, to what happens to the characters, and knowing that spoilers.
Should we just go into spoilers?
Maybe. Let's try to... Let me think. What should I recommend? I guess I should recommend other Wes Anderson films. I would recommend Paddington 2. And Mark does not know why yet. But I would recommend Paddington 2, which obviously means I need to recommend Paddington as well. And actually, there is a similarity between the first Paddington and this film, and that's the soundtrack. The way it uses the drum, the fast-paced drum. It is very...
Yeah, soundtrack in this film is also really great.
Oh yeah, it won Academy Award.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
And Desplat is one of the best composers in I think Working in Hollywood Today. He also won for Shape of Water, but I don't think that was.
Did this film win anything else?
Birdman won Best. This was the year when Birdman was in contention.
I see,
so
yeah.
Birdman kind of took all the.
Birdman kind of took everything.
Took everything. Yeah, I think Ray Fiennes, who plays Monsieur Gustave, deserves a Best Actor nomination, but that's because I see the humanity in his character, and I don't know if you agree.
I do. But
we should get into spoilers.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm sorry for those of you who are watching that I did a terrible job, but I guess because...
Yeah, we haven't spoiled really anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like we care about that a lot, so we take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then.
Okay,
go watch it. It's a 5-star film for me.
Yeah.
It's
very good.
In my top 10.
Yeah, you definitely watch it.
And Mark, you've heard Mark's spiel.
Yeah.
It's at least technically a very...
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful films you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, because the knowledge of the ending, where you know that the parallel between, the first time Mr. Gustav tries to protect Zero on the train and the last time, where it's shot in black and white, and you can say that that's just a stylistic choice, but for me, that is just the fact that, he dies defending Zero, that really, really hits me hard, and I'm almost tearing up just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that relationship, and rewatching it, you hear the lines, you hear even the moments of humor, where I feel like every line that everybody says, it adds to their character in a way that makes them much more three-dimensional than any of the films where Wes Anderson actually tries to add pathos to the characters. And like the moment where right after Zero rescues Monsieur Gustave from jail, and he did not know about Zero's background, and so he was like treating him really rudely about not bringing all his materialistic stuff. And then Zero's like, oh, but this is my background. And then Monsieur Gustave immediately apologizes. And I think, I think that's very, very moving, rewatching. I think all of it is very moving. And knowing what happens to Agatha, even, that she dies 2 years later afterwards, but knowing what she means to Zero. And just, Saoirse Ronan's really good in this movie, and I think, you see, she's a very fine fit for a character like Agatha, who is quirky and very bold, but kind of soft-spoken. She doesn't speak very much, but you see her. Like, there's a shot in the merry-go-round where you see her face up close, and you know exactly what she means to Gustav.
That was a beautiful shot.
Yeah. And the fact that, they stop the story halfway to go back to the 16:9 aspect ratio, which we can talk about the aspect ratio later on, too.
Oh, well.
Yeah, well, that's a
great use of film.
Yeah.
A great use of the medium. And
it looks like an old film when it's back in the time. It reminded me of films like Singing in the Rain and stuff, where it actually... But let's get to that later. So yeah, the fact that the story stops halfway and goes back to the 80s, where the author is eating dinner with old Gustav, and he mentions... admittedly, there's still a wooden quality to the fact that Zero has tears on him. It's like it looks like fake tears, the way he's like, I can't... This is the moment where I have to stop because I'm about to talk about Agatha. And the fact that he withholds that information, and when you see the bigger picture, I feel like that's... You know how much Agatha means to him, and it's so... It's such a pure relationship. And I find that to be so incredibly moving.
Okay.
Yeah, I find all of it to be so moving. And even the ending where, old Zero says that Monsieur Gustave, while very vibrant character, he might have relied too much on materialistic stuff, and he might have died figuratively before his body perished. And you can see that he does care about his materialistic stuff more than he does, I don't know, he might not be as humane as as we think, but because we're seeing the film through Zero's perspective, it is Zero who melts his heart and brings out the humanity in him, and I think that writing is just so brilliant.
Yeah, there are many layers of storytelling here, which like almost justify the film to be told in the way that it is. Now that I think about it, because we start with the person who has the book.
Mm.
Then we go one level deeper to the person who wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
Then one level deeper to the person who has the hotel.
Yes.
So, and then we learn about his backstory, basically. So it's like 3 layers deep, and the main story is down here. So it's like by the time you get to that 3rd layer, it's
Mm-hmm.
like total storybook mode in a storybook in a storybook.
Right.
Yeah, which, yeah, totally justifies the style, which is nice.
Yeah, I think this is, the first time I watched the film, I saw the, the story in the story. I'm like, oh, why are you trying to do this? I thought it was so
Yeah.
forced and it didn't make any
Interesting.
sense. But, I mean, it makes sense now. Maybe I didn't, I watched it when I was trying to catch up with all the Best Picture. I think it was like 2 days before the Oscar ceremony. So it was like in a hurry to watch everything.
Was this like around before or after you had saw Birdman?
This is obviously after. Because that's
Okay,
the
so
year
you were
that
just
Birdman-
starting like getting on
Yes.
the film train.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't think I was really in tune with this kind of humor either. So it was just a very quirky but frivolous and forgettable film for me. And that's why the second watch was so illuminating. And this third watch was, the watch where I really know what happens in the end and go back to it. Go back to the beginning and really see how everything plays out. And it's even higher now.
Something I realize that may also have to do with how I just feel weird about this film is it kind of tricks you in one way, or like it throws a curveball at you in a kind of a interesting way, where it sets it up for you to expect that Agatha dies in some horrible way.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the way he brings her up?
Yeah. Because of the way he brings her up, and then in the story, the bad guys find her.
Right. Well, okay, there was that whole bait and switch where you see the newspaper, local girl dies, but it turns out to be the butcher's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes it even more powerful. The fact that she actually died of natural causes, the fact that she died of disease afterwards, and the fact that she did not die during the main story. I think that's even more because, like...
Well, what makes it powerful, though? I guess to me, I guess I'm just trying to figure out what this film's trying to do, right? Like, if the story doesn't mean anything, is it about the humaneness of the characters?
I think it's about the connections between mostly Monsieur Gustave and Zero, and then Zero and Agatha.
But you could argue that they don't, except for Agatha and Zero, like, there aren't really any connections in this film. I mean, there is the connection between Gustave and Zero, but it's a very... I don't know. I guess this is because it's so non-traditional. It's hard for me to process.
Maybe. Well, it's still a Wes Anderson type of delivery.
Yeah.
The way the characters' connection, but in a way, for me, it's the most non-Wes Anderson delivery because there are no moments that really draw attention to their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, huh?
They don't draw attention to
it. Like compared to like the Fantastic Mr. Fox example, where there's a very clear jealousy between the two children, or like the Moonrise Kingdom example, where like there's a very clear dysfunction in the marriage. Even the Royal Tenenbaums, where the whole thing is about the dysfunctional nature of the family. Mm-hmm. The fact that it doesn't, the fact that it's all told through, it's just told in a way where I can actually believe these characters are real people. I think. Yeah, like I said, because of the scenes such as where Monsieur Gustave apologizes to Zero, for me, it's just so wholesome. It's so moving. Yeah, I think the connection between them is something, is so strong. I mean, there's a fundamental disagreement that we can't really resolve this per se, which is great. I'm glad that we're having this.
Yeah.
But
that's what makes these interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I just feel. The more I try to explain it.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I totally know where you're coming from, because like yeah, it's just, I guess. I just don't see it the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those things.
Yeah, because it just didn't move me in that way. And yeah, the whole Brechtian explanation is the best way I can think to describe it, I guess.
I think it's the opposite of a Brechtian thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, maybe you should go see Isle of Dogs, and then you can like give it 5 stars. I have Isle of Dogs at 2.5 stars, but the reason is very, very specific. Plus, I think it's one of Wes Anderson's dullest scripts. I think that, just a little spiel on Isle of Dogs, just because it's the film he made right after Grand Budapest. I think the stop motion, again, visually amazing, Isle of Dogs, but I think that it's the most lackluster, shallow script. And I guess we also have to go into spoilers for that, but that's all I'm going to say.
So, the thing that Wes Anderson really makes me think about is, what do you have when you take a Wes Anderson film and you take away all of the visual polish? What are you left with? With something like this, I'm not sure what that is.
Really?
Yeah.
With something like this, I think it's just people connecting with people in profound ways. When I say it's one of the most moving films I've seen, it's not an exaggeration.
Oh yeah, I totally buy that.
There's a reason why this film is so... I've seen many visually stunning films, including the other Wes Anderson films, but they don't reach as close to where Grand Budapest Hotel is in my heart, and that is because of the heart. Yeah. So for me, there's like this heart of gold that this film has.
Yeah. Well, you've also had a big journey with seeing this film, like, near the start when you were getting into movies as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably also, like, on repeat viewings and wherever you are in life when you see it.
I don't think so.
No?
I think my first viewing, I forgot nearly everything. I just remembered, there was a really cool ski chase. That's actually all I remember.
Wow.
Like, there's a part where they ski, and it was really weird. Yeah, that's all I remember. And there's a popular GIF on Twitter that they use, which is Monsieur Gustave running across the hallway. Like, they think I did it. Yeah, like on film Twitter, that is one of the most used GIFs in general. But I've seen things like that, but I don't remember much. I remember Agatha and her existence, but again, that bond didn't really ring to me. So really watching this could have, like, the second time I watched this, which was a month or 2 ago, could have been my first viewing. I don't think that would have changed.
Okay.
It doesn't have to do with where I watched it the first time. It had to do with where I watched it the second time, maybe.
Okay, kind of like my Mononoke viewing, probably.
Yeah? Yeah. That's a story.
Yeah. The very first time I saw Princess Mononoke, I'm a big Ghibli fan. If you haven't seen some of these videos, was like, I had no idea what Ghibli was, and some just people were just like, yo, let's put on some anime, and they like laughed at it the whole time, and it was just like, gave a really weird first impression.
Yeah, so they put up Princess Mononoke, and all they did was they made fun of it.
Yeah.
They made fun of everything about it, which I find ridiculous, because I think Princess Mononoke might be Miyazaki's best movie, even though I have it pretty low on my Miyazaki ranking. That's mainly because of the guy-girl relationship in that I thought was a little weird. But anyway.
You clicked on the Wes Anderson film and you get me is about stuff about Princess Mononoke, but yeah.
Hey.
That's the nature of this.
Yes. Yeah, is there anything else? I mean, I think since we've gone so deep, I'd love to, bring some of the humor and talk about some of the jokes, but I guess that's so trivial compared to, like, the stuff that we're talking about. Like, we can talk about how visually clever it is, but at this point, Maybe we should savor it.
I mean, there's this.
Save
I
it.
guess it's just not a lot to say about it that's very interesting. Like, I mean, there's no question that it's delicious. So what's there to talk about?
Well, I've given my spiel. I mean, the fact that we don't connect with that.
No, I mean, like, there's no question that it's just visually awesome.
Uh-huh.
So, like, we could just glorify that. It's visually
right.
awesome.
Well, okay.
But, like, what's the point of that?
Okay,
when they're, like, wrestling with issues is so much more interesting.
Well,
you know?
well, yeah. Let's talk about. I'll talk about some of the more little visual nuggets.
Okay, sure.
That really hit me this time on the rewatch. Not just hit me emotionally. I mean, obviously, seeing the boy with the apple at the very beginning of the film, in the old Grand Budapest, that just immediately, I was like, oh my god, because knowing, you know, it was a journey.
Yeah, you know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, seeing the butcher or the butler, I don't remember who, I forgot his name too. Seeing the dude slip the envelope behind the painting and knowing that it is the second copy of the second will, you know, that makes a lot of sense now, because there is that, it's like, oh, it was placed there deliberately earlier on in the film. That was really cool. And one of my favorite new visual gags that I never caught was with Harvey Keitel, the topless old prisoner who planned the entire escape. It is said that he drew the entire map.
Yeah.
But you look at his tattoos.
Oh, they're horrible.
And they're terrible. And I think that was, and I'm sure, yeah, they use the same color ink for both, and it's very, very deliberate. And it popped out to me. So, yeah, I thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah, the subtle visual humor is so spot on.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing, and other people have gotten more deep into it, is that anytime Monsieur Gustave tries to recite poetry so often in this, and Zero even tries to say it once, every single time it gets interrupted. It's very clear that and every time it gets interrupted, it's because of something different. But at the end, when Agatha says one poem about Zero and Monsieur Gustave's relationship, about one from the east, one from the west, whence came these two stars align, that was the only one that wasn't interrupted. And knowing that on a rewatch, as I say it, you know, I just said that, I don't know why people have analyzed it more. As I just described this, I think I just came up with like a conclusion. It seems like the only poem, like all the other poems are just words, are just colorful language. But the last one where Agatha actually finishes is what really matters most, and that is the relationship between Zero and Monsieur Gustave. And that in the end, and that's right before Monsieur Gustave gets shot. And the fact that that's the one that you hear it's a clear piece of poetry. It has an ending. And that's just so moving. I thought that was, you know, that's the only one that matters. It's like all the other ones, they get interrupted, but we don't care what the ending was. But with that one, we hear its ending, and we know its importance, because it is about that relationship. And I think that's exactly what it is. It is that the film is so, it goes to so many places, but in the end, it is about the relationships. And it does have fun with all its side characters, like Jeff Goldblum, like, his very, very clear R's. And he has so many long monologues as this dude. And I never get bored because his accent is just so different from anyone else's. And Wes Anderson, you know, clearly exploits that, but in a positive way.
Wes Anderson has a gift of exploiting his actors.
Yes. And also
that sounds bad. Of utilizing their talents.
Yeah.
And and what they're good at.
Also Edward Norton, who plays the cop, who's just incredible in this
It's funny because all of the actors seem to play similar characters in his films.
Yeah. It's true. And of course Owen Wilson has to appear, and Bill Murray has to appear. Yeah. So he does have fun with a lot of his traditional stuff, where like some characters are meant to be shallow and are meant to be there for the humor. Mm-hmm. Like Willem Dafoe's tough guy, and when he actually dresses up as like one of the people in the convent, that was really funny. Like there are really good gags, but I think what sets this film apart for me is the heart. And I've already beaten that a lot. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good point to end the video.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a heart that's very complicated.
Yeah, I didn't
yeah.
even know. I thought that it was just universally. It was just universal that.
It reminds me of a joke I made in an earlier video where I said,
What about is it?
about Ghost World.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what Wes Anderson would be like if he had a soul.
Yeah. But I think Grand Budapest Hotel, this is what Wes Anderson would be like if he had a soul. And I think it's one of the greatest souls.
There's a recommendation, Ghost World.
I don't see
Probably
it.
not.
I don't
It's
see
very
it
different.
as much. Yeah.
Very different. Very different. Also a good film, though.
Yeah. Very good film. Okay.
Wow, that wasn't
Okay,
as
yeah.
long as I thought it'd be.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was pretty long. I guarantee you.
How
We're
long
definitely
is it?
past 30 minutes.
You think?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. We'll see
Okay.
if we're right. Bye.
Bye.